Is this 707 horsepower Dodge Challenger Hellcat a good daily driver? And that is a question I'm going to answer in this video. But first, a small correction. As you may know, Nathan and I just got back from Maine, where we drove the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk with the exact same engine. We made a mistake. We said that it came with the gas guzzler tax because our vehicle tested at $99,965,000. We were wrong. There's no gas guzzler tax on the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk. And by the way, a little later this week on the 30th, when the embargo lifts, we're going to publish our review of the new 707 horsepower Trackhawk and a fun video where Nathan and I see who's faster from 0 to 60. So, with that out of the way, let's find out if the Hellcat makes for a good daily driver. Over the last year and a half, I've put on just under 7,000 miles on this 2016 Dodge Challenger SRT Hellcat. I know that's not a lot, but you know, I drive a lot of different cars. Now keep in mind, this car cost $69,280 with a $1,700 gas guzzler tax. And there's one thing that keeps this from being a really good daily driver, and that's right here. Let me show you. It's this chin spoiler. It's just about 6 inches tall, and that is not tall enough when dealing with most curbs. And from somebody who drives a lot of trucks, it gets a little, well, scary, because with the truck, you just don't care. With this, you're going to do some expensive damage if you pull up just an inch or two too close to your friendly neighborhood bagel shop. The EPA rates the Hellcat at 13 miles per gallon in the city, 22 on the highway, and 16 combined. Now, as I'm sure you know, the Hellcat comes with 2 keys. There's a red key and there's a black key. The red key gives you 707 horsepower, the black key just over 500. I always drive it with the red key, but I keep it in eco mode, basically like I was driving it with the black key. Now that means I'm getting much better fuel economy. And on a recent road trip to San Francisco, LA, and Colorado, we averaged a lot more than that, because at about 80 miles an hour, this engine is just turning over at about 2,000 RPM. It's barely working. This supercharged SRT engine is a honey of a Hemi. There have been reports of other high-performance engines heat soaking, in other words, overheating, but we have had exactly 0 issues with this engine, and that includes taking it on a high-speed mile run, taking it to the drag strip multiple times, taking it to the track. In fact, it has never failed to start. Of course, this car is brand new, but nevertheless, we've had 0 issues with the engine. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean the rest of the vehicle is as sorted. Let me show you what I mean. The panel fits are pretty atrocious for a modern car. Now on this side, the trunk spacing is, check it out, about 2.8 millimeters in the gap between the trunk and the body panel. But on this side, you measure it, 4.37. So the gap on this side is twice as big as the gap on this side, and that extends throughout the rest of the car as well. And there's one issue that I've actually now spotted on almost every Challenger that I've come upon. Let me show you. It's hard to see on video, but in this passenger side front wing, there's a little indent right here. It's like the mold that makes the stamping isn't quite perfect. And if you run your finger through it, you can actually feel it. And I've seen this on about every Challenger I've come upon, because I'm always curious to see if it's just our car or if it's every car. And I always run my finger down this, there's a window, down this gap right here, and you can feel it right there. And yeah, that's pretty, well, that's pretty bad, especially for a modern car. All right, I'm a sucker for attitude, and when I get to the front of the car, all is forgiven, because my favorite feature of the Hellcat, this racer style hole in the front headlight that lets in air to that massive supercharger. Sometimes, even though a car isn't perfect, if it's cool, you can forgive a lot. This car's 8-speed automatic transmission was a $2,995 option. That's a lot of money for an automatic because you can get it at no additional cost with a 6-speed manual, but I gotta tell you, it's the best money that we spent on this vehicle. This 8-speed automatic is paired about as well as you can get with that monster power plant. The 6-speed manual will try to rip those P-Zeros off the rear wheels in every gear, and there's nothing as terrifying as doing a burnout in 4th gear at 80 miles an hour. Believe me, I've done it. It was no fun. This Hellcat can be either very quiet or very loud, depending on how much throttle you give it. The Uconnect system in here is, I think, one of the best in the business, but check this out. My head is almost hitting the ceiling. The seating height is way too tall. These seats are way too wide. For a performance car, they give you less than zero support. And I would like something that's a little bit more bolstered, that's a little bit more sporty than these, well, these are like kind of like your home lounging recliners. I mean, if you really just want to sit back and chill and, you know, drive it like Andre, then perhaps it's a good seat. But for any kind of performance, these seats are way too big. There can be a bit of an issue getting in the back seat with this seat belt, and check this out, that's where I drive. Look how much legroom there is. But when you compare this to, let's say, a Mustang or a Camaro, the back seat is very livable, and the trunk, well, the trunk is downright enormous. In the year and a half that we've owned this car, we've had exactly one issue with it that was repaired under warranty. One of the boots that covers the drive shaft in the back needed to be replaced, and Dodge did that at no charge. We've also changed the oil, and we've upgraded Uconnect. But that's about it. There have been no other issues. From the factory, the Challenger comes with either all seasons or these summer P0 tires, and these are the original front tires. This is how much tread is left in the fronts, but let me show you something else. Back here, this is our second set of P0s, and they're almost gone. And that is because, well, you have 707 horsepower and a tire that just isn't wide enough to not basically melt every time you put your foot in it. And at $225 a pop, that does get very expensive. I would not recommend the all-season tires because these tires are very soft and sticky, and they can barely contain all that power. I started this video with a simple question. Is this Dodge Challenger Hellcat a good daily driver? And the answer is surprising. Yes, it is a very good daily driver with plenty of smiles for every mile. There are several small issues. The seats aren't the best, and if you live in Colorado, I would highly recommend not driving this in the winter because those rear tires barely have enough traction in the summer. But you know what? There's nothing more badass. There's nothing with more attitude than seeing a Dodge Challenger with this Hellcat symbol pulling up behind you, those red-orange lights glowing in your rearview mirror. Of course, that's until a Demon and the wide-body Hellcat come along. As always, this is Roman reporting for the Fastlane Car. Check out tflcar.com for more news, views, and of course, real-world, everyday driver Hellcat reviews. And keep in mind, just a few days from now, when the embargo lifts, we're going to do a review of this engine in the most expensive Jeep ever. You'll be surprised by what we think of it.